Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today is a little bit more of a laid back video. I'm not in my usual setup. Number one, because I just don't like how crooked my background has been looking. I think it's just the angle of my camera, and every time I'm editing it just drives me crazy. And number two, because I don't feel like setting everything up. It is super dreary and just gloomy outside. The lighting is not good. We're using artificial lighting today. And also I'm just not feeling great. But it is currently the 10th of December, I think, and I have not filmed my wrap up yet. So that's what we're gonna be doing today. I'm in the mood to film even though I don't feel good. So yeah, we have minimal makeup on, my hair is a mess, I got this hoodie on, I'm cozy, and I just feel like talking books, so let's do that. I am currently in the middle of the Merry and Bright readathon, so I am vlogging that, and I didn't have anything else to upload. So I thought, why not? Let's do my November wrap up. Let's talk about the books that I read in the month of November. I read 10 books. 10 books in the month of November. The past few months have just been not great reading months, but I am super happy with everything that I read in November. I read one of my favorite series in the whole entire world in November, and I just want to scream from the rooftops about this series. It's not my usual genre of reading, but it surprised me. I'm in love, and you're gonna see what it is in this video because I binged the whole entire series in the month of November, which is usually pretty hard for me. I can't sit down and read for more than an hour in one sitting because it's really hard for something to get my attention, much less 4 books. But I did that. I started off November with The Chestnut Man by Soren Svenstrup. I don't know how to say that. It is an international name. And I really enjoyed this. My hopes of reading this was to watch the show adaptation from Netflix. I believe it is. I still haven't watched it yet. I started the month off with this. I actually listened to this on audiobook, which was an experience in and of itself. I absolutely adored this while I was reading this. Can I tell you what this book is about other than a serial killer? No, that's all I could tell you. That's what this book is about. It's about a serial killer. He's killing women and he leaves little shapes of chestnut men all around or around the dead person. He's killed a few, and it's just trying to track him down. It's just a chase of this man, twists and turns. Obviously it's a pretty hefty book, but that's really all I can say about the book. It's all that it is about. So I'm hoping to watch this show pretty soon. I can tell you that while I did love it while I was reading it, obviously it's a pretty forgettable story, at least for me it was. The outcome of the story, while it was good, I did not see it coming, but I don't know if it was because I wasn't trying to see it coming or if I was just really not interested when the final reveal came out. I was like, oh, okay, makes sense. And then I just moved along. The writing was great. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. It was great while I was reading it. The good thing about doing the wrap up so late or so far after the month has ended is that I can really sit here and say, it wasn't memorable, or because if I were to do these wrap ups right immediately after I finished all these books, I would probably still be in love with this one. But again, I just found it to not be memorable. I gave it 4 stars because I remember enjoying the ride. The writing is really good and the audiobook was fantastic.
I don't know why I'm doing this right now because this is going to be a shit show of a video.
We're gonna leave the series that I read towards the end. Technically, I read the first book in the series right now in this order, but we're gonna talk about the series in the end because you gotta save the best for last. Next, I read Smolder. Oh my gosh. I received a package a couple months ago from this author, Michael Goodwin, where he sent me a few of his books, this one being one of them. Oh my gosh. I remember seeing this cover on other Instagrammers page or Bookstagrammers page, and I just was so interested in this, but I never bought it just because I'm not the one to save books on Instagram. Like, I'll see them, I'll want to read them. Sometimes I'm inclined to run and buy them right away, but I've been really trying to hold my spending. And when the author reached out to me to send me a package, I was like, I'm really not accepting review books at the moment. I'm closed for reviews just because I still am backed up. But I mean, I had to say yes, and I'm so glad I did because I jumped straight away into this. I loved this so much. It's such a short book, but it packs a punch. This is about a forest that has a malignant, evil force in it. When we start off the book, we start off with this man. He is doing a survey of the house. These people are trying to buy it, and you know, the process of having the land surveyed and the house and making sure that everything is up to par for them to close on the house. So this man goes out to survey the land. Next thing you know, he's melting in the forest, like skin, eyeballs, I mean everything. He is sitting there, and they're describing how he's melting. There's this killer fog, this fog that just melts the skin, and necessarily not the bones, but it just looks like the bones are melting off of you. And I mean, what an entrance to a book. I loved this so much. So we're just following this man. He ends up buying this house with his wife, but shortly after moving in, or in the process of moving in, he finds out that his wife is cheating on him. And now he has this house, he can't afford it, he is down in the dumps, he's like very negative. I mean, who wouldn't be? Because he saved his whole entire life, he worked hard, and his dream with his wife, their dream was to live somewhere very far away without people. So they worked hard, they saved their money, they buy this house, and then all the dreams are shattered because she just wanted to go sneak off with somebody else. You just feel bad for this guy, but he decides one night, he's super drunk, and he's like, I'm just gonna walk the land. And he comes across this evilness in the forest, and the story just develops from there. There is some cosmic horror in here. This book turns into this whole like wide dimension kind of thing. I absolutely love it. If your thing is in cosmic horror, then you might not like the ending to this book. I mean, it is really short, and to me it is worth the read because it is very well written and the story is amazing. You feel for this man, and just the entry to this book was just great. I usually don't fare too well with cosmic horror, but this one just worked for me. I mean, sometimes they work for me, sometimes they don't. This one did it. It was fantastic. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I thought it was unique. Could there be possibly another novel like this with the same kind of storylines? Maybe. I haven't read it, but I love this one. The writing was good, and I just thought it was very well done. Hey guys, a little interruption here. I was sitting here editing this video and I realized that I forgot to mention a certain little part with Smolder. If you are sensitive to animal deaths, big red flag with this one. Although it's a very short scene, there is a very graphic and descriptive animal death scene in this book. Just the same way that when we open the book, we get a very descriptive encounter with the guy that is dying because of this fog. We get something similar with a deer, although I found it 10 times worse with the deer. To be completely honest with you, I skimmed these parts. All I know are the little parts that I was able to catch as I was trying to skim to see when the scene ended. But it is a pretty rough scene, so I just wanted to let you guys know just in case. Oh my gosh, after that I read The Push by Ashley Audrain. I obsessively loved this story. This is a thriller novel that has to do with this mom. She is with the perfect man, they're married, she's like trying to be the perfect wife, and then they start talking about having kids. She has some kind of past trauma in her life. She didn't have the best mom, and apparently the mother lineage in the family is not so great. So she's like, she hides the fact that she really doesn't want to be a mom. She's afraid that she's going to be the worst mom because, again, she comes from this line of just like horrible mothers. Finally, she ends up pregnant and she has a little girl and she just there's something off about her daughter. She feels like there's a disconnect between them. She feels like this little girl might be evil. But is she really, or is this all in her head? It's just the whole story of this. She ends up having another little boy and something happens, and it's just, oh my gosh, this novel was just so good in my opinion. It's just a psychological thriller that will have you second guessing motherhood, will have you second guessing the main character, will have you second guessing the bond between mother and child. It will have you second guessing the daughter. It will have you second guessing everything. The ending to this is an ending that I will not forget. Usually endings, even if they are very like, bam, like here's the ending, enjoy. Usually, even if they're pretty memorable, I will forget about them. This is an ending I will not forget because it was the ending that I wanted. It was the ending that brought this book to a close so perfectly. And I just love this. I ended up giving this one 5 stars. I think about it all the time. It was just brilliant in my opinion. After that, I read The Devoured and the Dead. You guys, I have a vlog where I talk about this book. It's not a dedicated vlog to this book specifically, but it is a was it a weekend vlog or a week-long vlog? I don't know what it was, but I will link it up here. I loved this book so much. This is the last installment in the Splatter Western series. You guys know my love for the Splatter Western series, but this is in my top 3. I'm not going to talk too much about it because I do again talk about it in my vlog, but it was fantastic. It has to do with folklore. It has to do with it almost gave me the Hunger vibes or the Donner Party vibes, because it is a group of people that are traveling. They get caught in a snowstorm back in the 1800s, 1600s. I think it's the 1800s, and it is in the mountains of North Carolina. It is cold, it is wintry, it is delicious, it is amazing. There might be cannibalism, there might be some kind of like zombie-esque type of story behind it. I don't know, I do. But you're just gonna have to go read this. If you love winter horror, this is for you. 5 stars. I loved it. Then I read The Hidden by Melanie Golding. I loved this one. I had an arc of this, and all my e-arcs from NetGalley are just sitting there, just laughing, having a grand old time, wondering when I'm gonna read them. I found the audiobook for this one, and I specifically remember when I saw the audiobook knowing that I had an e-arc, so I'm like, you know what, let me read it because I love the cover so much. I really enjoyed this novel. When we start off the story, we start off with this baby that she's been abandoned. She's a little girl. She's been abandoned in front of the store, but she was left with a purse, and the people that are in the store actually come and take her, and they call the cops. While the cops are getting there, you are hearing the story from this person that's trying to make it to the store to get this baby, and somehow she gets there late, and this baby is left there alone before she can get there. Long story short, she ends up getting the baby, but there is a whole backstory that has to do with seal people. So it's a whole like mythology based thriller novel that I just enjoyed so much. Like, I did not know that I needed this book until I read it. I didn't even know that this was a thing, like the seal people that can transform themselves between seals and humans. It's a whole Celtic mythology, I believe, but there is some sort of mythological creature that can turn themselves from seal to human and from human to seal, and like this whole community, and Selkies, I believe is the name. They're Selkies. And this woman, there's a whole backstory. It's like, it's a complicated story, but it wasn't a confusing story, if that makes sense. But it has to do with Selkies and this baby and this woman trying to make it back to her people. She says that she's a Selkie, but nobody believes her, especially the man that she's with, that she has a baby with. And so enter this woman, and she tries to save her, and she ends up saying, hey, I'll take your baby and you go back to your people. Obviously, she doesn't believe that she's a seal, but it's this whole intricate story that I really did love. This is my first Melanie Golding book, and I think that the other book that she has is part of this detective story, because there is obviously a backstory of a detective, and she's trying to figure out what is going on with this baby and this woman that is seen on the videos with the baby. I'm not making any sense. I just really did enjoy the story. I love the mythology portion of it that I wasn't aware of, and it just took me until this this whole like spiral of researching selkies, which I was fascinated by. It was a whole rabbit hole kind of thing that I went into. Anyways, I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I do want to read the story, the first book, which I think it's Little Darlings, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think that they are together, like you had to read one to understand the other one. I just think it's the same detective that works in this one book is the same one that works in this one, but I don't think they're tied at the plot line, if that makes sense. So 4 stars, loved it. I'm so glad I read it, and this cover is just fantastic. I love it. And the last and final book that I read for the month before we get into the series that I read was Mouthful of Ashes by Brianna Morgan. This is a book that I wanted to read when it released, but I was in the middle of a move and packing, and I just could not dedicate time to sit down and just binge this little novella. But I finally did in November, and I'm so happy that I did. I really did enjoy it. I love Brianna Morgan's writing. Now, I will say that, did I read this book? I don't think I got to read it for the vlog that went up, but I tried to do a continuation vlog of the books that were sort of rolling over, and that never happened. And I think this was one of the books, so I don't talk about it in depth in that vlog, but I know that I say in that vlog that I love Brianna Morgan's writing. I read The Trick-or-Treater by her, which is a short story collection, and I remember her writing being so lyrical and so beautiful, but not lyrical at the same time. This, I found that it wasn't like that. The writing in this book was a little bit more stilted, which took me by surprise because I was used to like another format of hers. But nonetheless, it was still a fantastic story. It has to do with vampires. It's this, it was a set of twins and a sister. They're all siblings, and one of the twins die, and the mom decides to pick them up and move back to her hometown, where they try to resume their life back to normal. But the siblings run into a group of vampires, and the story ensues from there. It is a very short novel, so I can't say more than that, but I love the writing either way. I love the storyline. It was a fun read. I ended up giving this one 3 stars. I think it's worth the read if you like The Lost Boys and you like vampire stories. I think you will like this one. Now to talk about the final books, and unfortunately my battery is flashing at me. I hope I can get through this with enough time, but I read the entirety of the Practical Magic series. I loved this so much. Each and every book in here was either a 4 or 5 stars. I'll go into depth with, not into depth, but I'll go through what I rated each one. I will just talk about the story in general, not in each book in particular, because obviously this is a series and I don't want to spoil anything for any of the other books. But basically we start off with Practical Magic. This was the first book in the series. This was written back in 1995, if I'm not mistaken. I was still in high school, and honestly when the movie came out, I think I talk about this at some point, I wasn't in on watching the movie. So I had never watched the movies. I knew it was about witches, but that was it. And I've been wanting to read it for a couple years, and this is what I opened up fall with. You guys, I love this so much.
Why did I say it like that?
I will say though that out of the whole entire series, this was my least favorite book of the series. Like, I think it was the most vanilla out of the whole entire series. It was just okay, but this is where the saga of the Owens family starts, so I still love it. I ended up giving this one 4 stars just because I thought it was going to be something different. This is just about the story of the Owens family. I wanted a little bit more witchy vibes from this, but we don't get that in this book. We do get it in the other books, but not in this one. This is just a story about Jillian and Sally. They are these sisters. One day their parents die and they end up alone, but they know that they have these aunts. And one of the sisters ends up calling one of the aunts, which is one of the Owens aunts, and she's like, hey, look, our family is dead, our parents are dead, we need to come live with you. And so that's where the story begins, is these sisters coming to live with these witchy aunts. And from the minute that they get there, obviously they have their favorites. You have Jet, which is the loving aunt. She is the fun aunt. She's the caring one, the one that shows affection. And then you have Franny, which is the cold aunt. She's very practical. She's very to the point. And these aunts end up raising these two girls, but this is just really the story of the girls and their upbringing in a witchy home and just their lives growing up. It's a coming of age story almost about these two sisters and the lives that they live, wanting to get away from this home that they were raised in by these weird women, and just trying to find love and being cursed in love, because the Owens family have a curse on them that is talked about in these books. So it was a great introduction to the story. It was a great sort of like beginning to understanding about the Owens family, but I found it to be just, again, vanilla. Although it was great vanilla. It was like a soft serve vanilla ice cream from Dairy Queen, which is my favorite. So that's what this was. It was great, but it wasn't what I was searching for. It wasn't what I thought it was gonna be. I thought it was gonna be dark and magical, especially with this cover. I thought it was gonna be a little bit more witchy with a little bit more atmosphere to it. And while it did have atmosphere, it wasn't what I thought it was gonna be. Then I quickly and immediately jumped into the rules of magic. And the rules of magic is more about the stories of the aunts, Jet, Franny, but also Victor. Victor is the brother. He's not in practical magic because we do learn about their story here, but he's not in practical magic. So you learn about Victor in this book. Listen, you guys, this is my favorite book in the whole entire series. I felt one of my favorite characters in the whole entire series is Franny. You really don't get a sense of her in practical magic, but you learn a lot about her in here. You learn about Jet and Victor, and you learn about their curse a little bit more. But you just follow their upbringing with their parents and just how they learned that they were witches and that they had magical powers. All of them did. And so learning about these three characters was so fascinating. Like I said, I fell in love with Franny. I don't think I fell in love with Franny in this book though. Like I said, Franny is a very like just to the point, very strategic kind of character. She's the cold one. She's the practical one. She's the one that doesn't do anything. I mean, she does fall in love. Her storyline of when she falls in love in this one just really knocked me off of my ass. It was so good. I cried so hard reading about these siblings that I was swooned by this. I think this is the book that made me cry the most. Right after this one, I jumped into Magic Lessons. Now, I thought that this was the one that I was gonna like the least, but oh my gosh, again, I fell in love with this. Here we follow Maria Owens, which is the start of the curse. This is how the family becomes cursed in love. And I loved reading about Maria. I loved reading her journey. I do vlog about this one in that vlog that I talk about in the Devoured in the Dead, so I will link it up here if you want to watch it. But while I did find a little portion of the book a little boring, I found it to be perfect. Does that make sense? Like that little boring part was needed to get to know Maria and her journey and why she ends up cursing the family in love. Oh my gosh, it was so good. This one was more of a 4-star read to me, but it teetered. If I was still giving half stars, this would have been a 4.5 book for me. I loved it. It could possibly be a 5-star. I haven't really thought about it or changed my rating for it, but this one probably was my second favorite in the series. So far it's the Rules of Magic, it's Magic Lessons, and Practical Magic. And then of course I read the ending of the whole entire series, the book that left me with a life hangover. Not just a book hangover, but a life hangover. The Book of Magic. So here we have Jillian and Sally again. We actually have all of them, the aunts, Jillian, Sally, and the kids of Sally, because Sally ends up having kids in practical magic, so we're following them. We're following the whole entire family here, but here they are trying to find a cure or a way to break the curse so that they can finally fall in love again. And this one again, you guys, was so good. It was the perfect conclusion, but I honestly did not want the world to end. I just can't get enough of this world. I wish I was still in it. This is a series that I will gladly read over and over and over again, especially the second book, because I think it was, or I don't want to say the second book, but The Rules of Magic, which is actually the prequel to Practical Magic. Going back to the Book of Magic, I gave this one 5 stars. So far, Rules of Magic and Book of Magic both get 5 stars, and Practical Magic and Magic Lessons get 4 stars. But I think this is closer to a 5-star. I might even change my rating to this one for a 5-star because I feel like it was the perfect beginning because this is where it all starts. So this is like a prequel to the Rules of Magic. Anyways, I need to stop talking about this. It was a fantastic series. I want to read more by Alice Hoffman. I was just wowed by her storytelling. She really just draws you in and immerses you in this world that you just do not want to leave. The Owens family is fantastic. It's one of those families where you just wish you really knew them and you want to live in this world with them and get to know them. I mean, you do get to know them because obviously you're reading about them, but you wish that you knew them in the flesh. The whole entire series gets a 5 stars for me because as a whole, it is just perfect. She weaves a story so well, and I am just so happy that I got to read them. It says a lot that I read all these books in 1 month because it really takes a lot to hold my attention. There are series that I absolutely adore that I still have a hard time reading a book a month. So being that I read all of these in 1 entire month is just insane to me, and it just shows you the power of this story. Now I will say, I want to say before any of you are like, oh my gosh, I gotta read this, you know, Magic Lessons is probably people's least favorite. So really go into this one guarded, but not so much. Like maybe go in with your expectations low, because I feel if you go in with your expectations low, which is what I did, this will wow you. So that's it, you guys. Those are all the books that I read for the month of November. Let me know what you read in November. If you have a favorite book that you read in November, did you have any DNFs? Did you have like any books that you just despise? Let's chat books in the comment section down below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.